How do you know if something is or isn't Pilates? There are a lot of posts right now saying this or that isn't real Pilates because they didn't use all the equipment, or they didn't cue neutral, or they didn't use the six principles, or they weren't trained in the right lineage, or because they used dumbbells. Everyone seems to have their own definition of real Pilates. Now, I've thought about this a lot and I've gone back through the history. And here's what I've come to. If Pilates means exactly what Joseph did, then most current Pilates isn't Pilates. Joseph wrote, lock your knees and lock your elbows repeatedly and return to life. The six principles, they're not in here. They were added after he died. The series of five, the crisscross, they're not in here either. They were added later. The choreography of exercises has changed over time. Neutral spine, muscle isolation, pelvic stabilization, they're not in here. They're not in the original system. In fact, he specifically says Pilates is not for the development of this or that pet set of muscles. So if we're being historically strict, we'd have to disqualify classical because they added the six principles, the series of five, and changed the choreography of several exercises. But almost nobody's willing to say classical isn't Pilates. So, okay, let's say Pilates is a system based on what Joseph created. Fine. Classical changed a few things, but it's still Pilates. Well, after classical came contemporary Pilates, and they changed things again. They added neutral spine, stabilization models, biomechanics, muscle activation cues, and they changed the choreography of several of the exercises again. They added flex bands and jump boards and group chair classes. And I think most people would agree that contemporary Pilates is still Pilates, even though it changed from classical. Then came fitness Pilates, and they added dumbbells and simplified some of the choreography and added some fitness moves like planks and lunges. But fitness Pilates is not more different from contemporary Pilates than contemporary Pilates is from classical, or classical is from Joseph's original contrology. Each step says it's basically the same. We just adjusted a few things. So once you allow anything that isn't exactly what Joseph taught to be called Pilates, where do you stop? If classical counts, contemporary must count. If contemporary counts, fitness must count. If fitness counts, Legree must count. Pretty much no one today is teaching exactly what Joseph taught in 1960. So logically, we have two positions. Either none of it's Pilates or all of it is. And that's why the real question isn't, is this real Pilates? It's who gets to define what real Pilates is. There's no worldwide governing body of Pilates. And if we put together a committee to define Pilates, the people who we put on the committee would define what they do as Pilates and what everyone else does as not Pilates. So who gets to decide who goes on the committee? Because who decided who goes on the committee essentially is defining Pilates by the people they put on the committee. So it's turtles all the way down. There's no answer. Pilates has evolved since the day it was created, just like language evolves. The English we speak today isn't the English of Shakespeare's time, but that doesn't make our English wrong or fake English. It's just evolved, the same as Pilates. So my answer, it's all Pilates, all the way down.